Hi, this is Hannah Bailey, and I am going to be doing my presentation, my teaching presentation over autism in students. And I felt very drawn to this topic because over the summer I was a camp counselor at my church, and we actually had a student with autism in one of my camp classes. So I got to see it firsthand, and I was very intrigued by it, so I'm doing my presentation over it. So let's get started. So to start off today, we are going to be having a bell work question to just get our minds into it. So our bell work question today is, today we are learning about autism. In your own words, describe what you think autism is or what you already know about it, and we will discuss answers when you are done. We do have a spot on the note-taking page for you to answer your bell work question, and I will give you a couple minutes to do that, and then we will move on. Okay, I hope you got that bell work question answered, and now we are going to start off. So, what is autism? Autism is a disorder that is on a spectrum, and its actual new name that is more recent is autism spectrum disorder, or ASD. It affects a child's ability to communicate and interact with others. It also affects 1 in 54 children in America, which is quite a lot. And there's many subtypes of autism. There's not just one type, which has to do with the spectrum. There's different types, and each person is affected differently, meaning if you have autism, you can be more severe or less severe depending on what place in the spectrum you are. So, what are some ways to tell if a student has autism in your classroom? One of them is obsessive interest. Students with autism often have interests that they are interested in, and once they get interested in something, it's really hard to pull them away from it because they really enjoy it. But on the flip side, if you try to get them to do something else that they maybe are not interested in, it's probably going to be hard for the teacher to get them to do it. So at that point, you just have to respect that and try your best to get them to do what you want, even if they maybe don't like it. Another way to tell is through repetitive behaviors. Students with autism often shake or move around, spin in circles, tap their feet, all of the above. Also, another way to tell is through lack of communication skills. That's one of the main things about autism spectrum disorder, is that they don't really know how to communicate, whether if they're nonverbal or not. It's hard for them to get what they are thinking out speaking. So we just have to know in our heads as teachers that they probably have a lot of opinions and ideas in their head. It's just hard for them to verbalize that to us. So yeah. It's also hard for them to interact with other students because the lack of communication skills, and also they do have tendencies to lash out every now and then, so it is harder for them to interact. They also have little to no eye contact, and that is just another symptom of it. And I have a good YouTube video to watch that explains it in a little bit more detail, and there also is a place in your note-taking page to reflect what you think about the video. So let's watch it.
Most often, parents already know that their child has autism. They're just waiting for an expert to sit down with them and formally diagnose it. There are times where a parent doesn't know that's going on and comes into the appointment unaware of what it's called.
Now we just have one diagnosis called autism spectrum disorder. Previously, it was broken up into succinct categories. And the categories were to help people understand different levels and different functioning levels of kids and persons with autism. Now it's all one. It's all one disorder, and then we talk about different severity levels and functioning levels.
Autism is sometimes the A word that you don't want to hear it because you think it's going to be terrible, but autism is a spectrum, and there are children that have just a little bit of autism and who are in the mild range.
So a low functioning person on the spectrum would have intense behaviors that are impeding their ability to be independent in their life, little to no communication skills, unable to interact with other people and their environment without additional supports. Then you're going to have the higher functioning level spectrum. So in the past, it used to be called Asperger's disorder. People who have more of the stereotypic behaviors, repetitive interests, but their communication skills are there. They can communicate with other people. They can interact with others, but they still have some challenges and some barriers in those areas.
So difficulty with socializing with other kids, repetitive behaviors, such as toe walking, rocking, spinning. Those are the classic signs. The kids who are classically autism, you can almost diagnose right in the waiting room as soon as you greet them. They're fairly obvious and pediatricians are generally good at identifying those.
If they're a young child, some of the things that you want to look for are a lack of eye contact, lack of being able to engage in pretend play. So for example, if you have a toddler and they're not interacting with baby dolls, they're not really using them to try to play, pretend to rock them or put them to bed. Another one would be social interaction. So oftentimes they prefer to be alone as opposed to be with other people. They don't start interacting with other kids. We call that parallel play, moving to more of an interactive play. They prefer to just continue to stay solitary.
Many kids with autism spectrum disorder have these heightened sensitivities to things tactile, things auditory, things olfactory and thermal. And as a result of that, they often recoil from situations and develop an intolerance for being in certain places and in certain environments. And the reason many of these kids have food-related issues is because of sensitivities that they have from an oral standpoint. They can't tolerate various textures in their mouth. They can't tolerate the smell of food or even the taste of food, for example. So those would all be some early indicators.
I think parents are afraid of the label of autism sometimes and afraid that this is going to change the course of their child's life. And really, I've had no one come back and say they wish they hadn't labeled their child autism, because in beginning to accept a diagnosis of autism starts the therapy for it. So it really opens up their world. It doesn't close it down.
Okay. So I really like that video because it goes more into depth about certain ways to tell if a child has autism, and yeah, I just really liked it a lot, so I thought I would include it in my PowerPoint. So there is, like I said, a place in your ARF to respond to that video and what you think about it and your thoughts about it. So next, a big thing that people worry about is how autism spectrum disorder is going to affect the classroom. So these are some ways to make the transition smoother and make the time for the child with ASD more enjoyable for them. So commonly, quick changes are hard with autistic students. They like to know what is happening next, and if there is a change in the schedule, I recommend telling them ahead of time, because they are very schedule driven and they know what is next and they want what is next to be what is next. So along with that, giving warnings on time is also a good thing, letting them know, hey, we have 5 more minutes of math time, we're about to go into reading time, because quick changes are hard and they will feel out of place, and yeah. So it's also best as well to give them time and space to self-regulate, because sometimes they get so worked up about little things. It's good to give them time to be by themselves, think about what they're doing, maybe give them a little bit of toys or something to do with their hands that will help them self-regulate and get back on track to learn more in the classroom. So along with that, they may lash out at times. They probably don't know that they're doing it, but they are, and they are not going to know how to stop it. So at that point, it's best to try and keep the other kids in your class out of it and to stay calm, because that's what the child needs at that time. It's not going to help if the teacher is yelling at them to stop lashing out. It's also not good to restrain them. It's good to just let them do what they need to do, finish it, and then get on with the day. This is what happened with me, like I said in the beginning, at my summer camp that I was working at. The child that we had with ASD lashed out a lot, and I did not know that you were supposed to stay calm. So yeah, definitely staying calm helps the situation a lot, and it'll go way smoother in the classroom. And yeah. So another big thing, what can a teacher do to help? Because the teacher is there to help all the students no matter what they have, if they're on the spectrum, if they're not. But what can a teacher do to help? So the first thing the teacher can do to help is just respect the patterns. Students with ASD tend to have patterns, and like once the teacher is aware of those patterns and really learns them, y'all can be on the same page about everything. And once you respect those patterns, it's going to be a smoother ride throughout the school year. Another big thing is to be aware of sensory issues. Children with ASD tend to not like loud noises. So if y'all are going to the gym or recess or something, maybe even music class that have loud noises, it's best to give them maybe earmuffs or pull them out completely, even though we want students to be in with all the other students at all times, but we just have to do what is best for them. So earmuffs are good. Also, they like they said in the video, textures with food is also a big thing, so just be aware of that. Also, teachers can be direct with instructions with as few words as possible, because students with ASD tend to not be able to understand everything that you're saying. So if you use as few words as possible and be direct as possible, they will most likely be more understanding of the instructions that you have. It's also maybe a good thing to give directions in multiple ways, so that maybe one way will click in their head and they will be able to follow the directions without extra help. Teach social skills. So a lot of the times parents don't have a lot of time, if maybe both of them work, or to teach social skills like going to the grocery store and such. And a good way to do this, which I do have at the bottom, is through social stories. So social stories are really nice. They're really easy to make, and it'll give them a cool way for them to understand social skills in the real world. Give them extra time to do stuff. That's a big one, because they might not work as fast as other students, and it is important that they do finish their work as well. So giving them extra time is a good way to do stuff, and we just have to be patient and let them do it so that they understand as much as the other students understand. It may be also a good thing to give them alternative ways to do schoolwork, like example an iPad, because sometimes writing is not like their first choice and stuff like that, because they won't probably be as fast or as good as the other students. So giving them iPads or computers, technology is a big help to doing their schoolwork. And also, like I said, social stories, also a good way to help students with ASD learn some social skills. And that is it. So yeah, thank you so much for watching my presentation, and I hope you learned something about ASD today. So thank you.